Kiki, guess what your aunt bought you? Auntie grinned, her fist held tight and mysterious as she waved it in front of my eyes. The joy in her gaze was almost blinding. Seeing this scene again, a chill ran down my spine, and the hairs on my arms stood on end. I pinched my thigh hard. That's when it hit me. I was reborn. Auntie sat down close beside me, unfolding the red cloth pouch she held. Inside were 2 identical yellow paper talismans with red characters. My dear niece, I went to the temple especially to get these for you and your cousin. A priest in purple robes even blessed them. They're very powerful. This good luck charm is for you and your cousin, one each. Next year, you'll both ace your exams and get into an Ivy League school. In my past life, my aunt gave me this exact charm. Even the pattern on the red cloth pouch was identical. The talisman inside was an ordinary-looking yellow paper with red writing, supposedly drawn with donkey blood, consecrated by a purple-robed Taoist master. It cost over $3,500. My mom was so touched. She immediately hung the charm around my neck and told me not to take it off, except for showering. Who would have thought such a small talisman would ruin my entire life? It destroyed my future, drove me insane, and ultimately led to my death from electroshock and beatings by a quack doctor. I touched the spot on my neck where I'd received the fatal injury in my past life. A wave of coldness made me shiver uncontrollably. My cousin Mark was born 3 days before me. He was a lazy bum who just fooled around all day. But because he was the family's golden boy, my old-fashioned, sexist grandparents always sided with him, no matter who was right or wrong. Luckily, my aunt and uncle were pretty good to me. Because of that, my mom was very close to her. Early last year, my uncle died in an unexpected car accident, leaving behind a $40,000 mortgage. After that, my aunt and Mark, a widow and her son, had only each other to rely on. My mom felt sorry for her struggles, so she generously transferred $70,000 to my aunt to start a business, with no deadline for repayment. This year, Mark and I were both facing our final exams. Things were stressful. My mom, feeling sorry for her nephew, made sure that whatever expensive supplements she bought for me, Mark got an equal share. Even I often used my allowance to buy Mark things. But you can never predict people. All our kindness and selfless care were repaid with betrayal. In my past life, I carefully wore the good luck charm my aunt gave me every day. But within 2 weeks, my body started acting strangely. First, I was sleepy day and night. Then my memory plummeted. Finally, I even started having hallucinations. My appetite became enormous. I only ate meat, and I craved pungent, foul-smelling kinds. I hated brushing my teeth and detested showering. After a while, I couldn't tell if the stench clinging to me was from the rotten meat or my lack of hygiene. Every day, from the moment I opened my eyes until I picked up a textbook, I'd start to feel drowsy. I slept through classes and exams like I was dead to the world. Naturally, my grades tanked. Teachers and classmates avoided me, my grandparents despised me, and even my dad kept his distance. The day I was dragged to the mental hospital, I weighed a good 200 pounds. It took 4 strong men gritting their teeth to heave me onto the stretcher. The doctors and nurses, seeing my hideous and filthy state, gave me special attention every day. In contrast, my cousin Mark completely changed his lazy ways. Besides studying, he started exercising regularly. In just a few months, he shot up 4 inches, his memory improved dramatically, and his grades skyrocketed. Thanks to a regular schedule and healthy diet, his skin was flawless, even better than a girl's. Countless girls at our high school had crushes on him. One time, a classmate snapped a photo of him making an amazing dunk during a basketball game on the field and posted it online. Within days, he gained hundreds of thousands of followers. On the day of the final exams, he wrote like a genius, finishing every section first. When the exams ended, he was also the first one to walk out of the testing center. Meanwhile, I could barely write a few answers on each paper before passing out. When the exams were over and all the other students had left, I finally woke up. I shuffled out slowly, still chewing on some disgusting rotten fish snack. When the results came out, Mark was the top humanities student in the state with a score of 702. Top-tier universities were fighting over him, and he eventually got into an Ivy League school. My scores for all subjects combined didn't even reach 100. Plus, stories of my bizarre behavior had spread so widely that not even a community college would take me. My grandparents pointed at my face and cursed. When this damn girl was born, I said she was a jinx, a waste of money we should have given away, but no one listened. Now look. My dad also looked at me with disgust. How did I end up with such a filthy creature? You're a total embarrassment. Seeing my mom constantly calling doctors and getting me the best imported medicine, my grandma secretly slipped the head doctor a bribe, asking him to give me special care. If I was sleepy, they'd jolt me awake with a high-voltage stun baton. If I was hungry, they'd beat me until I stopped crying out for food. If I didn't shower, they'd blast me with a pressure washer and scrub me with steel wool. My mom, implicated by my situation, was kicked out of the house with nothing and died of depression. My loving maternal grandparents, unable to manage their business under the strain, soon went bankrupt and passed away one after the other. Meanwhile, my dad teamed up with a board director to embezzle most of my grandparents' assets. Only then did I realize it. This was all my aunt and my dad's doing. My cousin was actually my dad's son. No wonder he doted on Mark so much. They had hooked up years ago, deceiving my mom and my grandparents for a full 20 years. In the end, they took the money, bought a mansion and luxury cars, and became high society figures. My handsome, well-educated cousin graduated from his Ivy League school, became a huge internet celebrity with millions of followers, and had a six-figure annual income. But my mom, her family, and I all met tragic ends. Thinking about everything that happened in my past life, I dug my nails into my palms so hard they drew blood. Looking at my aunt's fake smile, I wanted to rip her face off and feed it to pigs. Thank God for giving me a second chance, an opportunity to personally destroy these wicked people. I was lost in my thoughts and didn't respond. My aunt, seeing I wasn't saying anything, thought I disliked her gift and her eyes welled up with tears. Kiki, don't you like it? Then she pretended to take the red pouch back, wiping her tears. I'm so useless. This little bit of money is all I have left. I don't blame you for not liking it, Kiki. If you don't want it, I won't force you. Our Kiki is so smart and hardworking. She can get into an Ivy League school even without this. My mom quickly snatched the red pouch from my aunt and, without asking, hung it around my neck. Sis, Mom said, Kiki might not say it, but I'm sure she loves it. Don't take it to heart. Seeing I had put it on and wasn't resisting, my aunt's tears turned into a smile. Just then, Dad walked in and saw my aunt wiping her tears. He frowned at Mom. Susan, my brother just passed away. It's not easy for sis to save up money. We can't just take things for free. My mom hurriedly agreed, yes, sis, I'll transfer you $15,000. You and Mark should eat well. My aunt beamed, and my dad puffed up his chest as if he were the one paying. Looking at this despicable pair, I felt a wave of nausea. My mind was already racing, figuring out how to make Mom see their true colors. Mom, I said, Grandpa called. He said his account has a transfer limit today, so he needs you to send him $30,000 first. My dad, Mom, and Aunt all froze, looking at me disbelievingly. Dad usually called the shots at home. I bypassed Mom and Aunt, shrugging at him innocently. If you don't believe me, go ask Grandpa yourself. Because my dad had gotten my mom pregnant before they were married, my grandpa had always looked down on him. The only reason Dad was a general manager at Grandpa's company was because of Mom and me. Hearing Grandpa's name, Dad clearly backed down. He opened his mouth, looking like he was about to say another day. I seized the moment and cut him off. Dad, we're seniors now. It's a crucial time when we need a lot of nutrition for our brains. Auntie spent all her savings on these good luck charms for us. How will she and Mark manage without money? Why don't you advance Mom the cash for now? My dad was a cheapskate. Hearing me say this, he looked up, ready to scold me, but then he caught Aunt's unfriendly gaze. Fine, he grumbled. I'll cover it for your mom for now. She can pay me back tomorrow. Aunt's phone immediately pinged with a notification. $15,000 received. Dad's face looked worse than if he'd been crying. Mom looked confused and was about to say something, but I quickly pulled her away, making an excuse to go home. In middle school, there was a classmate who got a guaranteed spot at a top art school. He was not only an amazing painter, but also a master embroiderer. I took close-up photos of the red pouch and the talisman from every angle and sent them to him. I asked him how quickly he could make an identical red pouch and talisman. I had barely put my phone down when he replied, "Half a day." Overjoyed, I didn't even ask the price. I immediately transferred him $700 and arranged to pick it up that evening. As for the good luck charm Aunt gave me, I left early that evening and took a cab to a rundown neighborhood on the outskirts of town. After searching around for a while, I found a stray dog covered in mange, rummaging through a trash heap. Seeing its territory invaded, its eyes glowed green, and it barked ferociously at me. I just smiled, dangled a jumbo sausage stick I was holding, placed it in a conspicuous spot, and then backed away behind a stone wall to watch. The stray, seeing me leave, immediately pounced on the sausage and wolfed it down in a few bites. Along with the sausage, it swallowed the good luck charm I had hidden inside. By the time I took another cab to meet my classmate, he had been waiting for me for a while. When he saw me, he handed me a book and whispered, "I don't know what you're using this for, but it's a bit sensitive. Better to be discreet." I nodded my thanks. Opening the book, I saw the replica talisman. It was absolutely identical to the one my aunt had given me. Mission accomplished. I finally headed home, only to walk into my mom waiting in the living room, ready to interrogate me. She threw her phone at me, her face flushed with anger. "Kiki, why did you lie?" I didn't beat around the bush. "There are some things I can't explain to you right now." "But Mom, do you trust that I would never hurt you?" Seeing my serious expression, Mom's anger softened a little. Just then a cell phone rang urgently. It was Dad. He said Mark had a sudden, severe headache and had been rushed to the hospital. He wanted us to come help. I was ecstatic. It seemed the good luck charm was working. That rundown neighborhood was known for its poor safety, lots of bad people, and even more vicious stray animals. The dog I found in the trash heap was clearly one of the most tormented ones. Covered in mange and living in filth, it was constantly swarmed by flies and parasites. Large patches of flesh on the back of its head, and at the top of its front legs were rotten. The horrifying image gave me goosebumps. "Mark, you're in for a world of pain this lifetime." By the time we arrived at the hospital, Mark was no longer in immediate danger, and was lying in bed with an IV drip. Dad and Aunt lit up when they saw us. "Susan, Kiki, Sis isn't feeling well, and I have a meeting tomorrow. Mark can't be left alone. Could you please look after him?" My mom is a trusting soul. She believes anything anyone tells her. Hearing Dad, she agreed without a second thought. But I saw right through them. They were making excuses to go home and rest, but they were actually going off for a tryst. I was just looking for an opportunity. I quickly ordered some pinhole cameras online. As soon as they arrived, I installed them all over our house, covering every angle, with a live feed to my phone. Once everything was set up, I secretly messaged my grandpa and asked if I could stay with him for a few days. In my past life, I believed Dad's lies and thought my maternal grandparents were just rich bullies, so I always kept my distance. It wasn't until after my tragic death that I realized how foolish I'd been. This time, I would protect them at all costs. When Grandpa heard I wanted to come, he and Grandma immediately had their driver pick me up from school. They had stocked 3 whole refrigerators full of my favorite foods. I hadn't even been there 2 days when Mom came to urge me to go back home. I made an excuse and convinced Mom to stay with me at Grandpa's. Sure enough, that very night I watched a live feed on my phone of Dad and Aunt hooking up in the guest room. A few days later, they got even bolder and did it in my parents' bedroom. I saved multiple copies of the footage and showed them to Mom. "Now do you understand, Mom?" Mom stared at the screen, speechless. She clutched her phone, her whole body trembling, her hands shockingly cold. "Why?" I said, steeling myself. "Mom, a few days ago, I had a nightmare. I dreamed that Grandpa, Grandma, you, and I were all harmed by Dad and Aunt. And that Mark, he's actually Dad's son. You might not believe me, but I can't risk anything happening to you. So please, Mom, don't blame me." Mom looked at me, bewildered, for a long moment. Then, as if remembering something, her eyes widened. She'd had that dream too. Another 2 months passed. Mark, who was already a bit chubby, had ballooned into a sphere. His appetite was monstrous. He only ate meat. If Grandma didn't stop him, he could devour an entire pig in one sitting. The bookshelves in Mark's room, once crammed with books, were now filled with his collection of various stinky canned meats. His neck had disappeared. Where his head met his shoulders, large patches of rough, bumpy skin were spreading outwards. Every joint on his body was exceptionally dark. His limbs, the only relatively smooth parts, were covered in uneven grime and countless raised bumps. He had a mouthful of yellow teeth. In their 2,000-square-foot house, you could smell the stench emanating from his room at the far end, even from the front door. His already compact facial features were squeezed together by the fat on his face, making them look almost merged. The loving look was gone from Dad's eyes when he looked at Mark. Grandpa and Grandma wanted to dote on their grandson, but the smell drove them away. Aunt, however, was a picture of maternal devotion. Even with her son in this state, her motherly love overflowed, and she couldn't keep her hands off him. Aunt started complaining to Grandpa, Grandma, and Dad. Mark is about to take his exams for an Ivy League school. It's normal for him to eat more under pressure, and it's perfectly normal not to have time to shower. You all go on about him being the golden boy, and how much you love him, but then you act like this just because he's gained a little weight. Hearing Aunt's words, Grandpa, Grandma, and Dad felt a bit guilty and forced some affection towards Mark. That night, in my parents' bedroom where Dad and Aunt were, Dad was nuzzling Aunt affectionately, cooing sweet nothings. They were about to kiss when Dad suddenly smelled something, turned sharply, and started retching by the side of the bed. Seeing this, Aunt instantly flared up. If you don't want to, then don't. Nobody's begging you. Who do you think you are, insulting me? My dad quickly apologized. No, it's not that. I just suddenly smelled something. I clutched my phone, laughing so hard tears streamed down my face. This good luck charm was truly potent. That deathly stench had even spread to Aunt. Aunt was about to argue but then seemed to smell it too. Reluctantly, she went to the bathroom to take a shower. Soon they were back in bed in action. The scene was too graphic. I was about to turn off my phone when I heard Dad scream, "What is this?" I looked closely and saw a thick, brown liquid spread all over the bed. Aunt jumped up, screaming in terror. The back of her head was facing the camera, and I saw several bald patches of varying sizes on her once densely haired scalp. About 10 minutes later, an ambulance took Aunt away. In the emergency room, Mark was being carried by several strong men. Mother and son were reunited. But strangely, even after using all sorts of equipment and giving them full body checkups, the doctors could only conclude that they needed to pay more attention to hygiene. Grandpa, Grandma, and Dad were so embarrassed they wished the earth would swallow them up. Fortunately, the results of the monthly mock exam came out that night. Mark ranked in the top 50 of his grade, while I was below 1,500th place. Because of this, even Aunt forgot about the earlier fiasco. After that, they all believed Mark's appetite was linked to his grades, so they stopped restricting his food and drink, giving him whatever he asked for. Over the weekend, Grandpa and Grandma invited me and my parents for a get-together at their villa in the countryside. As soon as we walked in, we saw Mark hunched over a giant stainless steel basin, eating fatty pork. The table was also piled high with pig guts. Mark, at a glance, looked to be at least 300 pounds. Grandpa and Grandma were bustling happily in the kitchen, while Aunt sat opposite Mark, diligently feeding her plump son pieces of meat, occasionally popping a piece into her own mouth. "Good boy, don't rush. Eat slowly, no one's going to steal it from you," she cooed. When Mom and I entered, Grandpa and Grandma were just coming out of the kitchen. This time, seeing me, they surprisingly didn't scowl. They held out a plate of boiled pork belly, inviting me to try some. I usually found fatty meat disgusting, and the house reeked. I couldn't help but gag. Grandma's face instantly darkened. She slammed the plate on the table and said sarcastically, "Bad grades are one thing, but being picky about food too? So ungrateful. In the future, we'll have to rely on our Mark to bring honor to the family." I ignored her and enthusiastically went up to Mark. "Hey cuz, your grades have improved so fast lately. Teach me your ways." He was too busy eating to pay me any attention. Aunt replied warmly, "Kiki, you don't have to worry. You've kept your figure and looks so well. You've grown into a lovely young lady. Grandma, still fuming, sneered again. What's the use of being good-looking? With bad grades, she's still a waste of money. One big waste, one small waste. I hadn't planned on responding to her, but then she started insulting my mom between the lines. How could I tolerate that? Grandma, are you saying Mom and I are a waste of money? Grandma snorted. How would I dare say such a thing? Just then my homeroom teacher suddenly called me. I deliberately put it on speaker. Hello? Mr. Lee, what's up? On the other end, the teacher replied, Kiki, what's going on? You failed the last 2 monthly exams. This time, you've dropped to over 1,900th place. The final exams are less than a month away. You need to get serious. You can't treat your future like a game. I was about to reply when Aunt snatched the phone. Is this Mr. Lee? What about my son? How did my son do? My son was in the top 10 in the grade last time. What about this time? It shouldn't be too bad, right? Aunt babbled on for a while before the homeroom teacher finally realized she was talking about Mark. Mark's mother, hello. This time, Mark ranked first in the entire grade. If he maintains this momentum, he'll have his pick of any top-tier university for the finals. Hearing this, Aunt was so ecstatic she nearly fell off her chair. Grandpa, Grandma, and Dad were overjoyed, tears in their eyes, praising how the Song family ancestors must be smiling down on them and how their family had such superior genes. No one paid any attention to my grades. Mark was being praised to the skies. He stuffed meat into his mouth even faster, but he didn't forget to shoot me a grateful look. That's right. Although Mark's actual grades were terrible, his handwriting was very neat, almost identical to mine. For these last 2 exams, the proctors were from other schools. I had arranged with him beforehand for us to write each other's names on our papers, and we kept it strictly secret. Everything was proceeding according to my plan. Unexpectedly, the night before the final exams, Mark developed unbearable abdominal pain, vomiting, and diarrhea for some unknown reason. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics broke 2 professional medical stretchers trying to lift him, but still couldn't manage it. On top of that, Mark was clutching an iron bucket, constantly vomiting a foul-smelling, brown liquid into it. Before long, several paramedics were so overcome by the stench that their eyes rolled back. They looked even sicker than Mark. In the end, I had to call the fire department. They used a crane to lift Mark onto a fire truck to get him to the hospital. It was a scene that even a 100-year-old man might never have witnessed. People everywhere were pulling out their phones to take pictures. After an agonizing 10+ hour wait for the lab results, the doctor's answer was exactly the same as before. Aunt started to suspect me. Kiki, where's your good luck charm? I pulled out the red pouch from around my neck, feigning alarm. It's here. What's wrong? Could Mark's strange illness be because of this? Seeing me about to take it off, Aunt quickly grabbed my hand and pushed the charm back. Of course not, of course not. I mean, your cousin got sick because he wasn't wearing his properly. Don't be like him. Keep yours on. It won't work if you take it off. Unable to find fault with me, she turned on the attending doctor, cursing him out and threatening to sue the hospital if they couldn't diagnose the illness. The onlookers, not knowing the full situation and seeing how confidently Aunt spoke, also started criticizing the hospital and doctors. I can't stand seeing innocent people wronged. I quickly stepped forward to mediate. Auntie, the doctor said Mark is fine, but you seem unhappy. What kind of mother acts like that? The final exams are so stressful. I think Mark is like this because of too much pressure. The exams are the day after tomorrow. His recent grades have been so good, he's just 1 step away from an Ivy League school. You shouldn't put so much pressure on him. Aunt wanted to argue, but when she heard Ivy League, her eyes instantly lit up. Seeing that Mark seemed okay, she stopped fussing and happily took him home to look after him. On the day of the final exams, Mark and I drew lots and ended up in the same exam room. Mark lumbered in, his massive body reeking, and said, Kiki, just like the last 2 times, we'll write each other's names on the papers. I timidly refused. Mark, these are the real finals. They're really important to me. You can't do this. Mark, seeing my reluctance, got angry and raised his hand to hit me. It was fine the last 2 times. Why not this time? My mom said girls are born a waste of money. It's useless even if you get into an Ivy League school. If you dare disagree, I'll have my mom destroy you. He hit me so hard I saw stars. I stumbled back, not daring to say another word against him. Mark was overjoyed. He was so heavy that just raising his hand and saying a few words left him breathless. Seeing a drink in my hand, he snatched it without asking, gulped it down in 2 swallows and walked off. The micro camera on my chest had already automatically saved and uploaded this video to the cloud, with multiple backups. At 8:30 a.m. sharp, the exams began. Mark, in the back row, was so sleepy he was practically dead to the world. He passed out before the papers even reached him. The proctors and other students, already complaining about being assigned to this stinking classroom, were even more distressed seeing him drooling thick saliva and snoring like thunder. But I was secretly delighted. The sleeping pills in the drink had worked fast. The exam questions this time were identical to those in my past life. I wrote Mark's name in the name field and wrote with divine speed. When the last exam finished in the afternoon, I gently shook Mark awake. "'Cause it's over. Time to go." Mark slowly opened his eyes, looking completely bewildered. After a moment he cursed, "Damn it! Can't these stupid exams just be one day? What a waste of time." Having slept all day, he was starving and dizzy. As soon as he got home, without saying a word, he charged straight to the dining table. Mark's eating habits were worse than a pig's. It wasn't so much swallowing as food being constantly pushed down his throat. He even made strange gurgling noises as he ate. Aunt had been on pins and needles at home all day, her patience long gone. Seeing him like this, she opened her mouth to scold him. I quickly stopped her. "Don't worry, Auntie. If he hadn't done well, he wouldn't be acting like this." Aunt's eyes darted around. After a moment's thought, she decided I made sense and beamed with joy. Early the next morning, the last day of the exams, before handing in our communication devices, I uploaded yesterday's video to the internet. Then, acting as if nothing was wrong, I took my exam paper and started writing. Mark was snoring like thunder as usual. Not even half an hour had passed when several police officers burst into the room. The lead officer picked up my exam paper, and another brought Mark's. After a quick glance, they announced, "All students stop writing." The exam room erupted in chaos, but they still couldn't wake Mark. The officers, frustrated, had to push him harder. 1 shove, 2 shoves. The desk couldn't take his weight anymore and collapsed. Mark, jolted awake by the fall, saw the police. Instead of panicking, he threw a fit, still groggy, and tried to fight back. What the hell? Who dares disturb my sleep? The police weren't about to coddle him. They called in a few heavily built officers who dragged Mark away. I, on the other hand, was taken to a separate room to retake the exam. 2 days' worth of subjects were crammed into one. Even though I wrote at lightning speed, it was dark by the time I barely finished. After handing in my paper, I got my phone back and turned it on. Over 100 missed calls popped up, and there was an endless stream of cursing messages from my family. Before my phone died, I uploaded the videos of Aunt and Dad online. I also borrowed a few security guards from Grandpa. When I walked into my house, the whole family was, as expected, sitting there grimly, waiting for me. Dad was the first to attack. "Kiki, what happened to your cousin today has nothing to do with you, right?" I put down my school bag and looked at him pitifully. "Dad, what are you talking about? I don't understand. What happened to cousin Mark?" Dad was so angry he laughed. He grabbed me, forced my head down, and made me watch the video playing on his phone. Mom, unable to bear seeing me hurt, tried to grab Dad from behind but was violently pushed to the ground. "See for yourself." Aunt, emboldened by Dad's support, strutted over to me, taunting, "Still won't admit it when you're about to die? I never realized you were so clever." She had barely finished speaking when she slapped me hard across the face. My lip immediately started bleeding. The metallic taste of blood in my mouth fueled my fighting spirit. I laughed like a vengeful ghost. "Still not as good as you, Auntie." My question made her falter for a second, but then understanding dawned on her face. "All right, you're clever. That good luck charm I paid a fortune for, it wasn't just to swap luck. It was to swap your luck and to take your life. You saw through the first part, smart girl. But the second part, in 81 days it'll be your death day. Not even a god could save you then. Hearing this, Mom's knees buckled, and she slid down from Dad's grip. Suddenly, there was a noise from outside, like a lock being picked. Aunt, perhaps too confident and overjoyed, actually tried to block the door with her body. But the next second, the door burst open, sending her flying. The people who entered were the bodyguards I'd asked Grandpa for. They had been waiting downstairs for a long time, just for this critical moment. Auntie, maybe your old eyes are failing you, I said. I have indeed been wearing a good luck charm. Just not the one you gave me. The one you gave me? I put it on a mangy stray dog. So Mark's luck was actually swapped with that mad dog's. Without waiting for her reaction, I walked over to Dad. Dad, you poured so much effort into Mark. But from what I can see, he doesn't resemble you at all, not in looks or personality. You might have been raising someone else's kid all this time. Honestly, I had no real proof for that statement. But truth didn't matter. What mattered was how much the people involved believed it. Sure enough, Dad shot Aunt a furious glare. Aunt was terrified and frantically waved her hands, trying to explain, but in this situation, anything she said would only make things worse. I helped Mom up, and under the protection of the bodyguards, we returned to Grandpa's house. That night, the videos of Aunt, Dad, and Mark went viral, hitting the top trending spots online. OMG, this family drama is insane. Mind-blowing. Seriously, how dumb is this school? Even if the handwriting is identical, isn't it obvious at a glance which of these two is the good student? That fat pig is Mark, he's in my class. He eats more than a pig, snores louder than a pig, and worst of all, he loves fermented herring and stinky tofu and never brushes his teeth or showers. Within a few hours, netizens had dug up everything about them, even where their ancestors were buried. Their social media accounts were flooded with abusive comments from eager trolls. They became more famous than celebrities. I found out about Aunt and Mark's subsequent episodes a day later. Right after I left, Dad grabbed Aunt's hair, ready to beat her. But before he could even land a blow, Aunt screamed, collapsed to the floor, convulsing, and started vomiting copious amounts of black blood. Meanwhile, Mark, in jail, was in an even more horrifying state. He was eating prison food with other inmates when, without warning, he suddenly jumped onto a table and started barking like a dog. Mark, weighing a hefty 350 pounds and usually struggling to walk, was now unnaturally agile. Drool streamed from his mouth. He bit everyone he encountered, guards and inmates alike, like a rabid dog starved for weeks. By the time snipers were urgently called in, he suddenly collapsed, convulsed, and like Aunt, vomited black blood before passing out. All his symptoms resembled rabies, but he was ultimately diagnosed with a mental illness not fatal, but with unpredictable, recurring episodes. A few days later, Mark and Aunt were admitted to the same mental hospital. Dad's situation wasn't much better than theirs. In my past life, he managed to seize Grandpa's company by colluding with one of the directors, a Mr. Ford. But this time, alerted by my words, Dad investigated and found evidence of Aunt's affair with him. A DNA test also confirmed that Mark's biological father was indeed Director Ford. Months ago, the first thing I did when I moved back to Grandpa's was to warn him about Dad and Mr. Ford, ensuring we secured solid evidence of their crimes beforehand. Now the time was ripe. Grandpa immediately submitted the evidence against Mr. Ford to the prosecutor's office. To reduce his own sentence, the director also turned over evidence of Dad's involvement in their schemes to the court. Charged with financial crimes, embezzlement, and several other offenses, Dad would spend the rest of his life in prison. As for Grandpa and Grandma Paternal, the truth was devastating. Their younger son, my dad, had an affair with his sister-in-law, my aunt. My aunt, in turn, had been cheating on her husband, my uncle, with my dad, and also cheating on my dad with Mr. Ford. And their beloved golden boy grandson, Mark, wasn't even related to them by blood. The day they learned this, one suffered a cerebral hemorrhage, and the other a heart attack. They both passed away on the same day. One more puzzle was solved, the luck-swapping charm. The reason Aunt also suffered a backlash was that she'd been greedy, unwilling to let her son monopolize the benefits. She tried to outsmart the spiritual master, who made the charm. But she never expected that she'd get none of the benefits, and the backlash she suffered would become 100 times more painful than Mark's with each recurring episode. At the mental hospital where they were confined, I sent a generous gift to the attending doctor, asking him to give Aunt and Mark special attention. If they were hungry, beat them with a stick. If they were sleepy, jolt them with an electric baton. Straw mats in winter, thick quilts in summer. Eating, drinking, and relieving themselves all in the same room no better than pigs. But whenever an episode brought them to the brink of death, he was to use the best imported miracle drugs to bring them back. At first, Mark tried to use his size to bully others, like he might have in jail. But prison guards enforce strict discipline, and inmate behavior is closely monitored. That tactic didn't work at all in the mental hospital. In a mental hospital, most patients suffer from varying degrees of schizophrenia, and there are many severe cases. During an episode, even a patient as emaciated as a skeleton can possess strength far exceeding that of an ordinary person. If they got their hands on any sticks or sharp objects, it would be unimaginably terrifying. For Mark and his mother, this place was no different from hell. A priest in purple robes even blessed them. They're very powerful. The day the final exam results were released, Aunt requested a visit from me. I agreed. I sat calmly opposite her. She was strapped to her seat, her face gaunt, her body covered in scars. In just over 10 days, she had become shockingly thin, a shadow of her former self. Aunt forced open her bruised, swollen eyelids and scanned me from head to toe, then roared, "How could this happen? It shouldn't be like this. In the last life, you were the one in the mental hospital. Are you back? Tell me, are you back?" Aunt struggled violently but couldn't break free from her restraints. Her wrists were already raw and bleeding from the leather straps. So she was back too. I just couldn't understand. In our past life, they had gotten everything they wanted. Why were they reborn along with me? But at this point, that mystery didn't matter. Watching Aunt's frantic despair, I felt an overwhelming sense of exhilaration, a satisfaction I'd never known before. "Yes, I'm back," I said. "Back to claim your lives, yours and Mark's." "Are you in pain?" "Because I still don't feel like it's enough to satisfy me." Unbelievably, after everything, her tolerance was still so low. My few words sent her into another episode. The attending doctor apologized to me and had Mark, who was also having an episode, moved into the same room as Aunt for treatment. That night, the mangy stray dog from the run-down neighborhood was cornered and killed by several other dogs. And Mark, while Aunt was asleep, bit her to death. Before dawn, Mark died too. Exactly 81 days. At the same time, I received my acceptance letter from an Ivy League university, along with a full scholarship. The ones who deserved to die were dead. The betrayers had gotten their retribution. A bright future and a promising path lay ahead of me. The end.